Welcome back, Rare Talks. You already know where it is. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't, please go over to the Spotify and check us out on the Spotify. Today, I'm joined by a special guest. Honoured to have him on my podcast, if I'm honest. Very wise brother and very proactive person in the community. Maybe a lot of you lot don't know him, and to the people that do know him, introduce yourself, my brother.
Dino Kai Senior.
Come on. So, I came across you because I saw you once speaking at Speaker's Corner a few years back on the progression of black people and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, this brother's talking sense. Out of all of the, because sometimes when a lot of people are talking, for me personally, I pick sense out of nonsense. So someone would be talking, be like, oh, he's not. But then I'd listen to everything everyone's saying, and then I'd get something, and I'd be like, okay, I like what he said. He said the most progressive thing to us. Solution based, because I believe you have two types of people in this world. You have people that are problem focused and people that are solution focused. So some people, they'll talk about problems all day. Yeah, we were slaves, we was this, we was that, all problems. Okay, what do we do now?
What's next?
Well, we need to do, and they come with such a solution that you think, wow,
It's not a solution necessarily. It's a reaction.
Thank you. So I like when I hear people say solution-focused things like, this is what I'm doing and this is what we should do. And it makes sense. I'm like, yeah, I like what you're saying. Even if I don't agree with everything you're saying, I can still see there's some good that we can take from it as a model and go from there. So just tell a little bit about you, about what you do.
So the first thing I'll pick up on something very important you said. You said you don't agree with everything. No man who is a critical thinker agrees 100% with another man. So you see the basis I start from my solutions. Anytime I'm brought in a room to engineer a solution as a reverse engineer to work backwards, knowing what I've either done in my life or somebody I know has done in their life, is I look for the commonality. So the first thing, when the young lady was attacked in the school in Kent, 100% of our people were behind some proactive activity happening, although they may not know what that activity looks like. And anyone who wasn't, who looks like us, isn't for us and has their own demons and a certain level of self-hate. I won't go into what that neurosis is. In any case, always look in any solution to bring a collective of people together. And especially like us, we are collectively inadequate. So if you think this man may be adequate because he's bought his yard, he's got his car, he's got this. But then when you look at the other psychological problems in his life, you say, none of us are wholly 360 in our lives, exactly where we desire to be. Then when you look at us as a cross-section, we are wholly inadequate. Economically, institutionally, because we don't have any institutions that represent our interests. In terms of community governance, because we drop things like partners in favor of bank loans. In terms of our own family cohesion, because our grandmothers used to keep the yard and everybody would come to that yard as a central locality for the family. Anybody's having a problem, you've got a box room to sleep in. We've dropped all these values where we found ourselves now, honestly, looking in the mirror, is collectively inadequate. What do we have in common where we universally agree where it's a starting point? Where I start is rites of passage for young men and rites of passage for young women. Because were you a Yiddisher, it'd be a bar mitzvah, and that would be a mitzvah for your whole family. So knowing that, if you put your child in rites of passage, it's going to give them a high cultural self-esteem. They're going to see people from the community who are doing, which means exposure leads to expansion. And if we said that was a minimum entry point, Manhood Academy, MAG, Westside Leaders Academy, Origin HQ, they're up in Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Wolverhampton, they're all around the country.
What's rites of passage? What is rites of passage?
Rites of passage is how a young man or young woman finds out how to be a productive member of society. So we can't say that we have any traditional pathway that can lead a young man into being a good husband. That's in 2023, that we say, here you go, you put that man in that pathway and he's going to be a provider, a protector, a nurturer, and a lover. And he's going to be all of the above. He's going to have the wallet, the sword, the inclination to go out and be industrious. We don't have those pathways that are funded. Now, we do have these pathways and they're common secrets. You could have somebody living 100 yards around the corner from one of these organizations where their child has gone off the rails and not have a tube of glue that is there. And that's a problem.
Facts. So, rites of passage, is that something that you started?
No way. Rites of passage is what we had in Africa to become men. So, look, if you're a boy and you want a place in the village, how do we know? You're untested.
Facts.
An untested man is not a man you can rely on.
Facts.
So if a man is untested and you don't have any system that has structure, how can you rely on that man when someone else might invade your village? It don't make no sense. Now you got to know that man can hunt, kill, capture, bring back the spoils of war, and feed the family. Now, if he ain't tested, how do you do that? So these are historic values that we've let go of. Because in the West, you just got to go to Iceland and kill your food, or Waitrose. It's different. But are we encouraging in a structural system that is going to enable a man to have that as part of his DNA makeup? Or did his father cut? Did he watch his mum struggling, complaining? Was he hearing in school that black men aren't this? Was he hearing from his white female teacher that I don't believe you can fulfill that ambition? You understand? So we're countering all of that without anything structurally to actually counter it. That's a lot.
That is a lot. So actually thinking about it now and deep in it, there isn't nothing to teach young black men or young men in general anything.
But there is. But they're common secrets. Because I named 4 or 5 of them. But they're common secrets. See, if you said rights of 100, my personal belief, and I will say understanding, because it goes beyond the belief. A belief, look, you can believe that's fruit juice. I'm aware there's Ray and Nephew in it. That's awareness. It's different from belief. At 48, I don't believe anything. I either know or I don't know. You hand me that drink, I'm not drinking it because I don't know. Because I put the Ray and Nephew in there, I'm aware, I'm going to drink it. Because I know, I have clarity. So we may not be aware what rites of passage is, but we need to be aware. Because I believe that any productive parent would want it 100% for their child. 100%. Unless you wanted your child to be confused and doing an impersonation of an Englishman and uncomfortable when they went in certain rooms, I believe you would want it universally.
Facts. But do you think that, even just saying that, do you think that, because for me, I feel like we've done a lot in our communities, but it's not pushed to the forefront. Do you think that us as black people having businesses is the way that we economically, because the argument that I hear a lot of times, and I agree with this more than anything, is that in our communities, we're not letting the wealth spread inside of our communities. So, all right, we hear that you have a business, say, for instance, whatever business it is, you have a suit shop. Just for argument's sake, I want to come to your suit shop and support you over anyone else's suit shop. For the number one reason that the money's going back into our community. Even if it goes to you and you spend it on whatever, it's still going back into our community. Somebody like you is successful. So when my children grow up, they see another man like you that's successful. But I believe that what we're doing is we'll give to everyone else and watch them become rich. And then look down on us and then complain that we're poor.
But there's a reason for that. And that psychological neurosis is, I call it confused admiration. Okay. Some men will call it jealousy, but that's a feminine trait. So when men do it, I call it confused admiration. If I can't be the thing, I don't want you to be the thing. You understand? So I only move with lions of a particular ilk. Because when we see weapons, we are drawn to weapons. I'm drawn to young men that are missiles because I know I've got the GPS to give them the direction to be impactful. You understand? So I've never had confused admiration. I don't respect it. I don't have any time for it. I will never move with a man who demonstrates that. But it's one of the things that we do. So people came to my shop for exactly that reason. So then what did I feel? I felt obligated to be more than a corner shop owner. And therefore, based on my intellectual capital and experience, knowing what I was capable of, to go out and advocate for my people, to sit down and write policy, to design solutions based on my life's experience and those of my brotherhood who are around me. So you don't know what you're actually giving birth to when you're funding something like that. So now I'm going to say something else. Because I've known a lot of Bun-Down Babylon people, having been in Panther UK at 18 years old. You ain't committing no revolution broke.
Facts. I've been saying this, and I hate when people say, let's go out and march, let's go out and do this. I'm like, let's go and get the bag. Let's go and invest our money into something and try and help us all create. If I become successful and I'm in the community, and then you say, look, man, I need £800 to buy this room or to get this, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it to you, bro, but can you give me the money back by the end of the month? How much do you think your turnover is going to be? You sure? You got this?
Forget even the giving it back part. So now let's say that the people come to me and my business is making money. So what am I now? I am my own bank. And do you know why I tell you that? Because when I had a shop for 11 years, I was my own bank. So I sponsored people. So you would see a man in a suit, you would never know that I just dropped the bits on them.
Straight.
Because if I see you out there representing us, and I don't think that visually it's exactly what it's supposed to be, knowing that we are proud, I'm not the man who's going to come and hand out pizzas and take pictures of myself. I don't need to film you coming into my space. I just give you the bags and go do your thing because you're doing it for us. Now, I want to do the actual thing. Number one, I don't have the capacity. Number two, I can't be in 15 places at once. So now how do we prove that we're actually allies on the brotherhood? We put our hand in our pocket.
That's the only way.
And it's not the only way.
But I'm saying that's the only way that we'll actually feel as black men that we actually love and respect each other because, bro, talk is cheap.
Talk is cheap.
I've sat down with many people and they've just spoke a whole good words to me. I've said, all right, cool. How much you willing to invest? And I see man start if finish. But
you see, herein lies the problem. If you're not your own bank, because you see one thing about me, people say, oh, you know the word. No, I speak very specifically. If you don't have capacity, it's intellectual masturbation. If you have capacity, it's because you are capable. So if all day I'm selling and I can open up my till and there's cash, I am now my own bank. That gives me a particular amount of capacity to provide solutions to ease that person's entry point into the market. You understand? So somebody has got a particular style of messaging, could have been you, and you say, yeah, I want to do this thing. And I say, all right, first of all, hold 8 suits. Then I'm going to meet with you once a week and we're just going to reason because I want you to understand how to tell someone to join the Foreign Office without telling them to F off. Is it bear with me? And they didn't even know bear with me means, they wouldn't have a clue. I'm going to give you all the toys. I'm going to give you the accoutrements of success because first thing is we're very visual. Show me, don't tell me. I can look at you and see you're not starving. First of all, show me, and then you got me in the room. It's like a thumbnail. Why would I click on it if the thumbnail's not attractive? You understand? So then after we've got past that point, you say, yeah, you know what the room is. And I say, you know what, you've been doing your thing, and I got every faith in it. Not alone, it's an investment. And as a man who has invested in people, I tell you the best investment you can make, you will make some mistakes along the way. Because I've invested in some biscuit bodyguards who turned out to be tramps, and I would use no other word. I've lit up some tramps who have confused admiration. I don't have that trait. So let me move past that. But the best investment you can make is in people.
So how do we do that as a community? Say, for instance, I'm asking you now practically, because I know that you run a course. Mm-hmm. What is that course about, and how does it help? Because I went on to that course and watched it. You know me, I'm one of them people, I'll read your whole course from top to bottom. And the way it was put together was very articulate. Mm-hmm. And I don't think even some people would even know how powerful that course was actually. When I read that course, you blew me away. I was like, bro, this guy, what you're doing, not even trying, what you're doing is incredible, but I don't feel like it's getting pushed to the front. And these are the things that I feel like, and I'm not even just saying this from my own back, I'm saying things like this need to be pushed out there for the youth, because I believe that if you have a system like this in every area, in every area, bro, we can do some big change inside of our communities. Maybe not everybody, but I guaranteed at least 5 or 6 people. We could actually, with that same model that you got, that same model.
It's modular and
you know what,
scalable.
let me not even speak too much. You speak on it, because I don't want to say you speak on it, because you probably explain it better to me.
So here's my first thinking. Everything that I do today, from the position of being 48, is what I wanted for whatever age I provided. So let's say it's 11, let's say it's 8 to 11, 12 to 16, 17 to 21. It's specifically for what I would have required at those stages to be who I am today. Now, the difference is I've gone through every single position that I've arrived at has been by making mistakes. Nothing I've done has been smooth. Nothing I've done has been easy. Nothing I did was the right way. Every single thing I did wrong. And I was a late learner, but I was a fast learner. And I retained the knowledge from the lesson. So when I create things, getting involved in petty criminality, still caring about what people think of you, 17, 18 to 20, finding yourself a victim to women. As I say, you see red pills now and they're trauma bonding around the table like they're drinking red wine, watching Friends on a Friday night, and the name's Sharon. All of us have been damaged. I have a mother of my son. I've been hurt. Now, it's like being scared, isn't it? Someone's popped out from a corner and said, boo. Are you going to walk around like that for the whole day? Shook because you jumped at the moment. I said, how long you want me to be scared? So then, like elastic, respond and recover, innit? Wisdom comes from pain. Experience that's valuable comes from pain, your elastic band. How far does your elastic band stretch without snapping? I know my elastic band and I know the point it will go to before it breaks. And then I just bring it right back. Do you know what that's called? You have, imagine a balloon, yeah? That is just taking on pressure. You blow in it, gets bigger, right? You blow in it, it gets bigger. At some point, it's going to pop, right? You got to know the point just to let the air out. Everyone have a drink. Drink responsibly, no way I do. I have a blowout with my brothers, lions of a particular ilk. I can be naked with my brothers because they're not carrying it anywhere. You understand? When young men understand that, because you can make it in very simple articulation, which is visual, because anything you say has to be a photograph in the mind. It has to be seen as a picture, because then it can be adopted. You understand? So if I said to you right now, you can't make no photograph out of that, right? Now, if I said to you, the bricks behind you bring out a traditional picture in the room and I see what you were going for, you can already make a photograph out of it to adopt and imagine and work on. So everything has to be a visual language for young men to be able to adopt. Because talking for the sake of talking, you're not communicating. Do you know what communication is? It's making a breakthrough. Okay. Now, if you want to communicate, I come in here, I'm selling to you, yeah? You're a Muslim. Yeah. But we locked in this room and you're not going to make it. And I say, King, you need to drink this. I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm a Muslim. I say, King, look at me. Allah wants you to live for your seed. And let's say we're in the dark in this room. How do you know that you're 180 meters into a 200-meter race? We might only be in here for another day and a half, and that might sustain life. Or your things could shut down. I said, I've had my share. I'm deferring my gratification. That's yours. It's got alcohol in it. The greater consciousness wants you to rekindle your relationship with your seed and be alive. I've now made a breakthrough, right? Because I spoke about the most valuable thing to you. So when I look at a youth, man, I say, what's the most valuable thing to this youth? See, you guys talk about informing, you talk about this, you talk about that, you talk about that. I got to understand your values before I can communicate to you. Because talking is a waste of time. That's for my own hubris, for my ego. I'm 48 years old. I've accomplished everything I don't have no sexual fantasies. Who am I impressing? 15, 17-year-olds. Am I going to talk about petty crime or bursting somebody or some nonsense? That doesn't impress anybody. What did you accomplish against the odds that you wanted to accomplish that everybody told you couldn't, but you had a knowing? That's where the creator lives. Your connection through your silver thread to your soul that knows, how do I communicate this into a course? I've got to ghost from everybody for a year and a half. That's all right. I'm young enough to recover, right? I'll say sorry. I'm not about me. I'm just creating the curriculum. And we'll go and deliver it with some young men to test it. Oh, wow, they love it. Fantastic. Well, now we've done Godzuki's program. Let's do Godzilla's program, 18 to 30. We want the missiles to give them the GPS, global positioning system. So when your missile lick that path, it's impactful. We take 10 weapons at a time, teach you to be a board of directors who work in sweat equity. So if you've got £1 million worth of intellectual capital, you don't need £1 million worth of investment straight away, because you're able to create a proposition that is worth $1 million. Or identify it, bring that person in, and you 10 represent them. Because you see, we need to understand pure business now. This man has invented a battery that can run a house, yeah? You don't need to buy that from him. You license the project. You're a chief financial officer. You're a CEO, the visionary leader. You're a chief operations officer. You're a marketing director. So now you've got a board of 10. And then if you all paid £250, not at the beginning of the course, when you graduate at the end, well, now I take $2,000 of that and put it back in, and that's the corporation. The entity owns half, you own 5% each, and now we're going to build that into £1 million proposition. Wow. That's a solution, because now if you are all enabling each other to become millionaires create businesses that create jobs. Jobs pay rent, jobs buy food, jobs create travel. So now, if my youth is still looking for a job in 2 decades and he can't come to anyone that I've enabled to go out and create that model, what am I really doing with the knowledge and my highfalutin words? Nothing. So it's not about waffling and sounding nice. It's about taking what you know based on your experience in the real world, social proof, and making it modular and scalable. So you spoke about every area. So here are the 8 core areas that I want to deliver these things. Croydon, Lewisham, Lambeth, Southwark, Hackney, Haringey, Enfield, Brent. Why? Because they are the main African and African Caribbean boroughs in Londinium, right? That's where you start. So now, this year I want to train 100 young men like that in person and 1,000 vicariously through social media, probably using Patreon as a tool. So I'm shooting video materials now with that whole curriculum, because repetition leads to adoption, right? 100%. You watch it 1 million times, you got it. You got the language, you've got all of the units. Business acumen, banking acumen. I have a banking expert right now. He worked in unregulated banking for 16 years. He did his banking degree last year. He's doing his PhD this year. Do you know what his thesis was on? What? Full economic inclusion for African Caribbean people. Now he's doing his doctorate in that. So there are weapons of a similar ilk, you understand? Now, when we combine all of this intellectual experience and give it to young men, what are they going to do? Because you see, if you worked at Merrill Lynch, do you know what they do? They don't forget your degree. You got a degree, that's great. Now, we're going to train you to purpose. So your weapon is just hunting a pound note. Now they're trained to purpose, to work civically and socially for our community with an industrious mind. That's a weapon. But no public institution's going to give me money for that, which means I have to be my own bank, right? That's the clarity that I have.
So you thinking that we need to create our own banks and our own economical systems, because that's the way...
Nothing's stopping us. So licenses are the precursor that they stop us. So then my same banking brother I went to, King, I've got Revolut. Revolut's not a bank. It's called e-money. Investigate that, please, because that's the one we need. We can do that. All we need to do is capitalize it. Cool. That's what we got to know. Do you know how Lloyd's Bank started?
No.
The men, the Yiddish men who insured slave ships, because we had no part in their Holocaust. They had a part in our Holocaust. But we're not going to call them out for that because that's the past and they're dead and gone. However, Lloyd's Bank is here today with proceeds earned from slavery. So through reparatory movements, we do seek to get some reparatory justice. In any case, that's a sidebar. So they used to meet in coffee shops. And when they met in coffee shops, they put the plan together to create the insurance. And from that insurance, they insured everything because you get more in than you pay out, including the slave ships. Powers.
Ingenious. I've just deeped what you just said.
So now when you just take what has historically been done, because we've got to draw our lessons from every culture, right?
100%.
And apply those lessons. And then regurgitate it in our own culturally competent language so that it's appealing to our people. Simple things. Because you know what everybody else does? Nike, more Yiddish CEOs, make a commercial that is culturally attractive to our people. So then we go and buy Jordans like rice. You buy 3-4 pairs a year, couple £100. Now you might spend £900 in the course of that year on trainers that might have cost 60 quid wholesale to manufacture. You understand? That's a huge markup. But you see, a brand isn't about paying for the value of what you've got. It's about paying for the feeling that it gives you when you've got it. So they understand that. But do we understand it? Because when we market, we're not necessarily marketing in the way that people are used to consuming. Which is why you say, well, why don't our businesses have such success? Oh, it's black. No, nobody ain't buying on that basis. We will say, yeah, Hercules. Nobody ain't doing it. Market to people how they're used to consuming, where they're used to consuming, in the way that they like to purchase. Just put a gift bow on it. Make it easy. You understand? That way, you have what I call an irresistible proposition. Can't deny me. Why would you want to? You need me.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
So, do you think, all right, so me, I would say to like everybody, because everybody thinks being an entrepreneur is for everybody, yeah? And I think that being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. And I say because what it comes with is more headache than actual success.
110%.
But what I've seen on the internet is that they paint this like picture, oh, you're going to get all this money, you're going to get all this, you're gonna get all that. And that's the fake side of it. The real side is that every entrepreneur has had to suffer for a limited amount. I'm talking about suffer for a little, and his family suffered at him just having a
sacrifices.
Dream. And I feel like that part is not shown. But I believe that when you do get there, because you will eventually get there, if you do,
it's inevitable.
It's just about
if you're consistent, it's inevitable.
Because you, like you said, and one thing I've really took on the board was that you said, for me, you said that you made so much mistakes, and I could relate to that because I made so many mistakes to the point where I started to learn what to not do. Like, you know, all the mistakes that you keep. And I got out of this mindset of blaming people, because blaming people never brings progress. It only brings self-hate to yourself. Like, I'm waste. I always flop. People, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm not. But it's not that. It's just that you've made all these mistakes to show you the path of what you can do and what you should be doing. So every time you make that mistake and you fall off, like, I would fall off and I'd be like, I'm gonna get back on my feet straight away. So I think that just happens to me naturally, because something happened and they'd be like, oh, you can't do this. I'll be like, cool, no problem. I'll find another route. I'm not even focused on the problem. Someone's like, oh, but you need to worry about this. I'm like, no. I need to get my mind right to a point where I can retrain my brain to get back into, I'm gonna succeed. But do you think for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they don't have any guidance of how to be entrepreneurs? Like, there's not enough courses and stuff for people that come from where we come from, or people from inner city. backgrounds. What do you think of that?
The funny thing is, a lot of people don't want to be honest about the mistakes they made because they don't want to share their vulnerabilities. But I wanted to ask you a question because you said you made a lot of mistakes. Are you aware of the characteristic that you have that makes you not sit down in the street? Because as I walk around Londinium, I'll see people in doorways with caps between their legs. I was in Edgware Road today, and I seen people with signs saying I'm very hungry next to them. So do you actually understand the characteristic that you have that won't allow you to sit down? That's the first thing I want to ask.
No, I don't. I just know that I refuse to fail.
I know what it is.
What is it?
You see, you think it's a characteristic that can be learned. It's not. There's only one unquantifiable that we have. Do you know where it lives? Spirit. It's not in the mind. Okay. You see, you can say the mind here. The mind is nothing. If I was playing a radio in this room, can you smash open the radio and see a band playing music? No. So, take for granted, you have an internal monologue, yeah, that you converse with all day, every day. Fine. That comes from somewhere, right? Yeah. Now, how we understand things to be cloud-based now, that's why I said, I have a relationship with my soul through my silver cord. I run track all day. A man who didn't understand running track all day with his higher self might think he was schizophrenic. He might be told he's schizophrenic. He might be medicated for it in what they call a liquid kosh until he doesn't know his ass from his toenail. Remember what I said about rites of passage? Mm. Imagine you went for a rites of passage and you understood that your spirit is the core component of who you are. Mm. Take religion out of the equation because your soul is a universal phenomenon. Now, when you hear in that voice, you know that that is the voice to be trusted. You have ancestors who run through your veins, who communicate with you all day. If you can make yourself quiet enough and humble enough. When I get in the shower, I hear my people like we're in a board meeting. Any problem I have is solved. Because they want you to win. And you see, winning ain't got to be pretty. So if I wasn't here in my suit and I was on my face and one of my brothers called me, I'm going to go and do painting and decorating with him. I'm going to go and carry tiles and pieces of floor upstairs. If I see you had rubbish over there, and I said, where? And I see women struggling with it or men, I said, let me ask you a question because this looks like hard work. How much would you pay me to get rid of that? Because I have the capacity to do it. I'm going to create a role for myself. Let's take pride out of the equation. Because you see what you were saying about these false prophets with business, it's shiny, and they're getting broke hand over fist buying clothes on credit to come on social media. You might see me in a suit. I did not go into any shop. I bought them from the wholesaler. My customers paid for every single piece of clothing you've seen me wear in the last 6 years. I did not buy any of it. My customers paid for mine. If I have 200 suits, it's because they paid for it. So when I said I was obligated to go out to work for them, you understand? But I'm nobody's leader because nobody pays me again. So now I just convey my intellectual capital. However, entrepreneurs are supported by a huge amount of information on the internet. Can't say there's no book. There's 1 million books written. You got to feel it. You got to know. If you know yourself, you know what's for you. And if you don't know yourself, it's because you haven't spent enough time by yourself. So you see that track? We spoke before we started about the Yiddish argument. Now, Jay-Z said the same thing as Kanye West, but Hov Like Me said it with a better articulation. Now, Kanye West said it was a choice to be a slave for 400 years. Jay-Z just said it cute. Until you're by yourself, you can't be me. Until you're by yourself, you can't be free. How we still going to be slaves in 2016? Same shit, right? Different communication. You see, one was a communication and one was just talking. Now, if you talk because you have lips, you ain't going to get the outcome you're looking for. Hove knows that. I know that. You know that. So if you think you're just going to come and speak because you got celebrity and influence, yeah, you do that. And you could lose $1 billion a day. Or you could go Super Cardi and get 750 in a day. Just appetites.
Yeah, smashed it. Smashed it.
You understand?
Yeah, that was a business move. But I generally, I think that, again, like I said, entrepreneurship and pumping money into the community is the only way that we're gonna actually find solutions to the problems that we have. We've been marching for years. We've been doing all this stuff for years. The civil rights, we've been doing all this stuff for years, and it hasn't done anything.
Civil rights was the wrong approach from the start, and I'll tell you why. How do you fight to get into somebody's system who is oppressing you?
That statement we just said, I've been saying that, but people, I'm saying, how can you change a system?
Because they're emotionally attached. So look, if you give me this cup here, and the only way I'm used to drinking juice is out of a cup. Now I'm doing 5 years, I'm in Pentonville, and I've got a roll of foil in my room. Right, you never did know I was a sculptor, that I could make a cup out of tin foil. I have never been to Pentonville. I would never find myself. I know when to be quiet. But what I'm saying is, invention comes out, that innovation, yeah, comes out of necessity. So if a man is in a thing and there's no cups, and a man made a hooch, he's gonna make a cup out of the tin foil, right? Because he needed to. But because we believe we have too many options, we never actually believed that we needed to create the institutions that we do require. So because the Yiddishers went through what they went through, they know, but they didn't go through something we went through, which was cattle slavery, because our minds were co-opted by the people who did it. Now, I don't want to hear one more word when we talk about reparations. Well, the Jews did it. They received full reparatory justice to this day. Do not compare us. We have not received £1 note of reparatory justice, economic, material reparations. We have not received any land reparations. We have not received any intention of reparations. Don't compare us. Don't talk about the Nazis being bad people, because Germany has paid full reparatory justice to Jewish people. England can't say nothing. Uncle Sam can't say nothing. Shut your mouth. Because you're still killing us to this day. You're still in our homelands based on how you underdeveloped our nations. You created through the Balfour Agreement an artificial state called Israel, which is only 80 years old. You gave and created a race called Jewish people for the purposes of delivering reparatory justice, because you can't deliver it to a name or a crayon color. You can only deliver it to a nation. So you had to create it in order to pay it. But understand what they had already. They had the Bank of England, and Britain required it to go to war. You see, the best loan you can get as an individual is a mortgage, right? The best loan a bank can give to a country is a war. Otherwise, there will be no need for a proxy war utilizing the Ukraine for the US. So understand something. When they say they're sending 43 billion to my man, they're not sending 43 billion to my man. Let me show you how it works. I send 43 billion to my brethren in the arms firm. He runs back 10 billion to me. My man gets his money, and we're all cool in the gang.
What, did they say they're giving 43 billion to Ukraine?
No. That's old news. Yeah. Keep up. This has happened a couple of times now. Yeah. So why do you think the only president in the room thinks he can turn up in a green Asda jumper, sweatshirt, when everyone else is there in a suit? Because he's balling out of control. He's got his begging bowl out, asking everybody, running around like he's in military fatigues. Hey, listen, I could put on a green sweatshirt from Asda and go in a room full of people with suits with my begging bowl, because it facilitates the bank robbery of taxpayers' money to run to your brethren in the arms firm, who runs back P to you, who runs P to the comedian, because he was only a stand-up comedian.
This sounds like some gangster. This sounds like some gangster thing, bro.
Now I want to run your mind back, because I made a point to you earlier.
This doesn't sound no different to the
Nah,
roads.
so now let me tell you, because I said it was the roads. I told you something earlier, because you said to me, it's about laws. And I said, no, it's about force. And you said, no, it's about laws. And I said, no, it's about force. You heard me say that, Tim, right? Yeah, right. So I said it's about force. It ain't about laws. So now let me tell you what it is. Now, if it's illegal to invade the Ukraine, why wasn't it illegal to invade Iraq? So now, we're now speaking about the same case. Now, let me tell you the difference between Iraq and the Ukraine. So, Iraq had oil. There's somebody in the way of that, a protector, who was a CIA asset when you needed him against Iran. No problem. You can use what he did for you against him now. You always present the black man, Colin Powell, shaking talcum powder in a test tube. He showed sketches. We think this is what they look like. And they said, nah, forget the UN inspection. We're going to war. So the UN inspectors had to get out, and they went. Because they said, this bank robbery is going down in Chinatown today. Now, every day, we're seeing stories about how the Ukrainians are being killed, right, as civilians. Let me run your mind back to when the Iraq war started. They started it with a fireworks show called Shock and Awe, where they dropped $1 billion worth of bombs on Iraqi civilians. And the news reporter was like, whoa, and you saw the fireworks. Me and my brother were watching it. We didn't understand how many people died as a byproduct of that fireworks night, $1 billion worth of bombs to create shock and awe, to let the world know, which was only a warning for my man in North Korea to say, slow down, Tinkerbell. Because we are capacity too, you know. That weren't for Saddam Hussein. That was for North Korea. Stay cool. Iran, stay cool. But we know you might have something about you, so we don't want to go with you. But be cool, because it can go down in Chinatown. So now when we look at the criminals that inserted all of their companies on cost-plus contracts that taxpayers paid for, it paid arms and munitions firms. It paid firms like Halliburton, no tender contract. So when you get a contract for $1 billion and there was no tender, that means that somebody got paid their commission for getting you that contract. And that was merely to create the bank robbery from the taxpayer to my corporation. Now, if I was in the cabinet and I owned 8 million in shares, what do you think is going to happen to those shares after we go to war and the contract's awarded?
It's going to go up.
Conflict of interest, but it happened. All of this happened in real life.
So wait a second. What? Because I'm understanding all this stuff. That sounds like a lot of criminal behavior. If
Absolutely, it's criminal behavior.
Me and you would be in prison.
So now why can't anything happen? Because the US military, you have the military capacity to protect it. There's a term that they use for the banks, too big to fail. Now, if you convict a US president, you convict the United States of America. And that, my friend, is not going to happen. A whole heap of people are going to dead behind that. So when, in 1986, Ronald Reagan was utilizing the CIA to bring cocaine from Colombia to be sold in LA by guys like Freeway Ricky Ross, there was a journalist who made the story about the coke that Freeway Ricky Ross sold. And he tracked it back to President Reagan and the CIA operatives who brought it in. That man committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the back of the head in a hotel after he was separated from his wife, a year after he released the story. Capacity, interests that are too big to fail. What will we kill for? What will we fund no matter what it takes? Very important questions. Or let's not compare ourselves with anybody, right?
That's wild. You know, I never knew half of that, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah, I didn't know half of that.
Life is stranger than fiction.
But if we're going down that route and we're saying that this is what they're doing, why don't we take, I'm not going to say do the same thing because it's morally not right, but we could take the model of what they've tried to do.
When we say morally not right, you see, what you're doing now is by design of your indoctrination as opposed to an education, you're regulating yourself and saying, they go low, I go high. Here's my thing. Nationhood just looks like a nation protecting itself against adversaries, irrespective of anything. So if you protect your airspace with surface-to-air missiles, why wouldn't everybody do that? Why couldn't you just come and land in my country anytime you feel like it? Why can you land in Haiti and send special forces and execute my president and it's not on every single news? And that was only last year, shot in his bed next to his wife. And then you send in the troops to come and control the resources on the ground. This is real life. This is all people have to do is Google's your friend.
What? Wait, what? What did they do in Haiti? And they got away with that, scot-free.
So who's in the frame for it? When you had captured special forces soldiers, what do you think is the point in training a man as a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL? It's not to protect America. It's for wet work. You know what wet work is?
Dirty stuff.
It's where you go cancel somebody's contract. So when they bought, I'm trying to remember his name. This is the week before 9/11. There was a $3 trillion deficit in the budget, which we know went on black bag ops, dirty ops. And they asked Donald Rumsfeld, where is that $3 trillion? I'm not sure. I'll figure it out. Okay. Was anybody asking questions after 9/11?
Not really, no.
Not really, no.
They just took it. Yeah, it was this person. That was it. Done. They created a boogeyman.
But then it was largely Saudis who funded it and were involved, and they flew the Saudi families out back to Saudi Arabia from America. So it's never about what we're trained to look at through our indoctrination. But world affairs become boring when we have so many problems and challenges. But you see, the key is to be aware of the macro so you know how to work in the micro. When you understand what the game is, because it is a game.
100%.
But it's not child's play. So there's not really much scope for messing up. So you got to learn really quickly, and you can do that vicariously from other people by studying history. Because there's a science to the repetition of patterns. And that's all you're seeing now. So all we saw with the colonial virus was a huge social experiment, which was about people's capacity to capitulate their freedoms willingly. And they did. So that means that you can convince enough of the population to actually capitulate their freedom, and they will do it willingly. They will take whatever you give them to stay safe. And then the people that are objectionable, you give them a title, you make a boogeyman out of them. But at some point, if your story isn't congruent with what's actually happening in the world, meaning that a universal fact is open to 360 degrees of scrutiny, even locking it off on social media, nah, go help you. Because now we all know, right? And in a year's time, we're really going to know the effects of that social experiment, where an experimental drug manufacturer made 50 billion in a quarter because the government mandated it. Remember the thing about kickbacks with arms firms? Drugs are exactly the same, baby. Same game.
I kind of understood that anyway, because I looked at it like this. I don't know about anyone else, but I looked at the share, the market, the market shares, and there was a company that just popped out of nowhere. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to get sniped, but they came out of nowhere, and for some reason, they was at the top of the shares, and everything they were sharing was increasing in value to the point where buying a share for them was 15 grand for one share. 15 grand. They came out of nowhere. Now, it's very rare for any company to come on the shares market and take over and then disappear again. It's literally
unheard of.
It's if you don't understand the shares market, you won't understand that you can't just come out of nowhere. You have to build trust and reliability. You can't just come out of nowhere and you're at 50. I couldn't just start something, pull it on the shares market, and I'm getting
so let me,
15 grand one share.
So let me ask you a question.
Because there's people that have been on the market like McDonald's, KFC,
so let me ask you a question.
Microsoft, Apple, and they've been there for years.
Yeah.
So we trust that if I put this 6 grand in, I'm gonna get some money back for it. But
so
just
watch
to
the
come out
ride.
of nowhere.
So watch the ride. Let's say you were a Chancellor of the Exchequer and you had your own hedge fund in a blind trust and you could invest in any company and then you could call your brothers to give contracts, governmental contracts to those companies to just skyrocket. It's conflict of interest, right? But if the trust is blind and can't be investigated, so the minute you start to understand sovereign law, I own nothing, corporations do. I'm merely a trustee within the corporation that controls all the money from that. You start to understand how the world actually works. So now, rather than us going down all of these roads that they do, because we've examined the macro, let's bring it back to the micro. Now, if sovereign law is a thing, what precludes you from getting involved in sovereign law and utilizing it for your own family?
Knowing.
So now you know. So now you set up a family trust and everything is done through that vehicle. And that vehicle owns a corporation that owns your home, owns your car, does every single thing that you do in life. You don't pay any taxes. You don't have any commitments to anything. And now you're living life. You don't pay any inheritance tax. You understand? That's the game. That's how you maintain the wealth and retain the wealth. Because it's just the game. Now, you asked the question about, are there any formal trainings? No. Why are you indoctrinated instead of educated? Because there is an establishment that governs this domain who want to retain the wealth they have, and they will. Why? Because you are trained to regulate yourself. So even if you have your wildest thought, you won't do it because you just said it to me. They go low, we go high. No, we're on the same level because they ain't no going low. If you slap me, I'm going to punch you. I ain't getting high. You slap me, I'm going to punch you. Because it makes sense. Because I don't think you get tired of slapping me. I think, in fact, you'd be encouraged by my capitulation. So now, cut this thing out. They go low, we go high. It's for imbeciles. That's indoctrination. Education is to say, I got to grow my security at the same rate as my influence and capital, or I'm food and they're going to rob me.
Straight.
And that is a collective experience. So now, if you had a structural trust to be able to collect community wealth, so look at the building we're in. Imagine we had a trust like that and we can just now, I'm going to buy that building, turn it into a school. I'm going to buy that building, I'm going to turn it into a community center. I'm going to buy that building, I'm going to turn it into some form of banking facility. Now, before you know it, if all three of those buildings are in a borough, forget about the bookie shop, forget about anything else nefarious in the borough. Those three underpin economically our community. Because you go to the community centre for our cultural celebrations. We have our own banking facility, so you could lock off whatever, it doesn't matter, we got our own. And then we have a school to train our children how to think with their right mind instead of to capitulate to your system, to maintain your status quo. So then, who does it really matter who we vote for? So then you understand partisan politics is for children. Because it don't matter. Now they're going to come and talk to your leadership. Because your community know what you're about. You're just about African and African Caribbean interests. Look, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you say. What are you doing for me? What's good? Nothing? Cool, man. We're going to put up our own independent candidate. We're going to vote for them. Nothing's good? Crack on. Good luck, yeah? You know the makeup, the ethnic makeup of this borough. You use the term ethnic minority, but not all boroughs are. That's why I mention them. Croydon, Lewisham, Lambeth, Southwark, Hackney, Haringey, Enfield, Brent. Utilize your power by organising your people. First of all, what stops me as an independent organisation conducting research from taking an ethnic census in this borough of African and African Caribbean people, knowing how many there are, and then creating vehicles to entice them into community centres, to speak to them directly, introduce them to councillors, and saying, if you vote this way, this is what we're going to get out of this borough, because we control the budgets. That's not to say that you take anything away from anyone else, but we actually get to share within that. Equity. Equity isn't given. Equality is given and it can be taken away. Facts. But equity is yours because you can compete. If you can't compete, you don't have equity. If you don't control it, you don't have equity. If you're not your own bank, you don't have equity. You have equality. Yeah, Darkies was last year, so all that BLM stuff was whack. That's last year.
That's wild because I was thinking about now you've got me thinking that we need to start building wealth into the community. Like you said partners are gone. And I remember how important partners were for my parents, especially for my mother, trying to get things for the house. And she never had that one check where she could just splash it out on one item. But she wanted us to live comfortably. She wanted us to have the things that we're meant to have in life. And it wasn't even for things like luxury items. It's for like items in your house that you need, like a nice sofa. And you know, you think, why is my mom buying such expensive sofa? But she wants us to feel like
to last.
Yeah. Number one, to last, and for us to feel comfortable.
And to know you're somebody.
Yeah. And like the kids come right, everyone could jump on it. Like an uncomfortable sofa, something that you don't really like sitting on. So I didn't realize that she was using a partner, and I'd have to follow her hair to give this to this woman, and I'd think, why every week we have to do this, man? But then now I understand, when you take them stuff away from you, you've taken away a trust that we had inside of our community. Forget the money side of it. I'm talking about the trust side of it.
The relationship.
Yeah, that you trust that I'm giving this money. So in other sense, that's similar to a bank, no? That we're getting all of our money that we're working from other people, and we're putting it in a place, and it's like a loan that we get every few months. I know people that are still in partners to this day, but I feel like it's something that's taken away from our community, that's not promoted, because it's like we've lost that kind of trust. And I say trust, the word trust is important. They've made us feel like we can't trust each other. And that was a key factor in trying to get that. But if we could establish things like that again, then that's how we could start investing in the entrepreneurs into the community, for them to start making money, so we can bring wealth back to the community and start doing things. One thing I've learned about, and this is not just about African black people, because there's some African communities that only support themselves. I'll give an example of it, yeah? You'll see a Somali person pull up in your area, yeah? One shot. Am I lying? One shot.
Yeah.
How many shops do they have by the next 2 years?
That shop, just like any ethnicity that understand that one brings 8, will always be growth. You all work in here, you learn how to take money. Because first of all, what isn't understood is what that shop actually is. Because you just looking, if you don't go inside and you don't have a relationship, you don't understand that. That shop you're looking at there, that looks like an internet cafe, that looks like a coffee shop, is actually also a money transfer, sending money back home, which is necessity. So everybody's coming with their wages to send money back home every day. Now it's a central meeting space for all of those people. It's somewhere for men to run away from their wives for 10 hours a day.
Real talk.
It's all of these different things to one set of people. Now, from the to the naked eye, the untrained eye, just look like a coffee shop or an internet cafe, right? There's a whole heap going on there. Now, 1 gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 4, 4 gives birth to 8.
And you know, I actually saw that today. So I prayed Jummah today, and I saw all the Somali brothers. This is Somali-run mosque. They were all donating, all of them.
Yeah.
Tap, tap, tap. And you know what? For the first time in my mind, I actually understand the economical side of it. I've never looked at it like this. I just thought, yeah, he's giving charity, But now I thought, this place will never close, because these guys will never let it close. So they understand the importance of this place being a community hub as well as a mosque for those people. So you can never take this from me, because no matter what, these guys are going to keep donating 5, 5, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. They probably made like $3,000 in just one sitting, just from the people in their community. So that wealth goes back into the community. They still have a space. Then they have the shop at the back. Then they all go to buy their food. Then they bought another shop. Now they got another meat shop. Bro, they've taken over Brixton Hill. Brixton Hill is not the same. But You can't get mad at them because they're keeping the money inside of their communities. And we need to
Don't
start.
get mad at anybody, brother. That's called confused admiration. You know what a scientist does? Where is the science? As a reverse engineer, let me go to the beginning and work my way back out to the outcome. Because anything else is effeminate, is emotional. As men now, we're talking. It's not an insult to women to say there's too much feminine energy for a man to have. So you said something very important because you were talking about tithes. If you think about a shotter actually burying money, I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I said, ooh, that's it. Me and my boy were actually watching Breaking Bad. And we finished 5 seasons the other day. My son's 16. So now he's old enough that we watch these things together and we have fun with it. So we're watching Breaking Bad and the guy buried $80 million. And I said, yeah. I said, do you know the spiritual energy of burying money? Because money is currency, which means that it's supposed to be in circulation. That is a spiritual thing, like a river is a current that runs. It don't stop ever. Stays in circulation, a current. And a currency stays in circulation. That's why you heard so many stories about people burying their thing and it goes bad. It's a spiritual phenomenon.
I know I believe what you said because I remember someone dropped game on me once. They said,
there you go. Let's take the names out of it, baby.
Yeah. Someone dropped game on me once. Yeah, they said to me, "Trust me, bro." He said, "Your money is never yours."
Yeah.
Talking about. He said,
It's never.
"You're gonna pay someone to do something, and that money is to their family, and then they're gonna spend it on something, and it goes. So it keeps going. The money, it never stops." And I was like, I never really looked at it like that. So money, what you just said, is 100% true. So we all pay each other through some way or another. But
we take money from each other, but you made an important point about the tithes. That is a direct spiritual, intentional relationship with the current. Now, if you take that out the equation, see, people who give tithes will never be poor. They might be momentarily broke, but they'll never be poor because the spiritual, intentional spiritual energy behind tithes, giving for good causes,
always comes back.
Always comes back.
Tenfold.
It's a universal law. So the one thing that people don't realize when they speak about the Yiddish community, and we might have confused admiration, Ye certainly demonstrated it when he's, I'm jealous. But do you tithe like those you want the results of? No, you don't. No, you don't. You tithing for toys. That's not tithes. You flossing. But you're too wealthy. You can say that hot shit about tucking in your chain, but that ain't it, because you're still playing games. Do you tithe based on your wealth? No. Because you're still chasing European women around the world. Still playing children's games. You can only get the universal benefits when you practice the universal laws. That's why they're called universal. It's not optional. The soul, the creator, the higher consciousness, births souls. That higher consciousness had the infinite wisdom to create all the universal laws on this plane to govern man. Yah, Allah, Jehovah does not need to get involved with the ant farm of the individuals, because the universal laws created will decide our outcomes based on how we engage with our free will. So when you see a man lose $1 billion in a day, same as you burying money, because what were you doing? Yes, you have your church, which is for you and the optics, but the systems you're capable of creating, were you a true visionary leader? Because it's easy to say leader. There's no such thing as a black leader. Because you're not even lead yourself. You're still reliant. You're not 100% your own bank. Now, anyone that is, like Dr. Malachi York, I make no aspersions on his case, they will come for. This is not a foregone conclusion that they will get you. So we've got to stop capitulating. Oh, they're going to come for you if you say that. Spiritually, you must protect yourself based on your intention.
Do you know what's
You
funny?
ain't getting me.
Do you know what's funny? Anyone who doesn't know who Malachi York is and what he's done, I believe they're not wise, because that guy created books of history of things that was lost. I never forget the book that I read from him, and I'm not taking away if he's done what he's done or he hasn't. I don't know the case. I just know that this man wrote a book that educated me in a way that to this day I still talk about. And one of the things that he taught me was it was about the pig, the origin of the pig, where the pig comes from. The pig is made from the dog, the cat, and the rat. And I was like, what's this guy talking about? He gave some crazy references, not crazy references, he gave some biblical, logical, everything references in the
Science.
book. And I was like, this guy knows too much. And when you know some things that they don't want you to know, they have to rub you out.
But he employed it, and he employed it in this way, because I have brothers who were there. Now, when you come onto the camp, you were trading your dollars for the Tamaray dollars. So now you spending their currency on the hundreds of acres of land that they had, where they'd built the pyramid, which is a spiritual power and attractor again. So he knew how the universe is governed. And also in terms of trade, create it. Create it and sell it. What do we need?
Do you believe me that they got him through the worst way possible, though?
Absolutely. If you want to character assassinate someone and you don't want black people around it to give you no defense,
hit him with the charges.
Hit him with the charges. Hit him with.
There was, if I'm honest, there was no coming back from it.
There's no coming back from that.
And it's sad because the books that he wrote, yeah, and I'll never take away from a man's genius, because they don't do that with other people.
No.
They always give them their credit on their merit for their genius.
But the reason they will character assassinate us is so that you leave the science.
So they character assassinated him on a level beyond repair, to the point
110%. We don't even want to defend him.
Yeah, we can't. we can't.
Can't touch you.
Yeah. So there had to be, you see, with me, I always think of things like this. What did he have that was so important that they wanted to take? Now, I knew about the pyramids. A lot of people didn't know about them pyramids. That what he done, he actually, no one could have done that, what he's actually achieved. The books that he's wrote, the books, I'm talking about, I think he's wrote the most books in history. I didn't even know that until I started to go into it. Man saying he's got this book, that book. He had
a system for life.
So what is it about his message that they wanted to take out? And then if you deep it, if you look deeper into it, you understand a little bit deep. But yeah, they assassinated his character in a way that every single black person on the planet would be like, I'm burning his books.
Can't touch him.
Leave him.
So now let's bring it to a contemporary case. And it's not to make the comparison of the man, but it's to give you a contemporary case to understand the tactic. Because remember I said, you just look historically at what's been done, and then you look at patterns. Because we're all talking about Tate right now, right? You say, so what do I have to do to doppy this man's energy and attraction to him as a charismatic man that's drawing so many young men towards him? Well, I just got to put that charge on you, right? And whether you're convicted or not, headlines go much further. And if there's smoke, there's fire. So that's it. You're at the game now. And although you'll have to return all of those vehicles that you took, although he won't be convicted of anything, you're at the game to the masses. Because we don't want mass adoption. Yeah, you have your little tribe, but we can't have Google shutting down with your name. So all we got to do is go to that prosecutor who's got ruthless ambition, who wants to be something bigger, say, we're going to give you Tate. You're going to be president one day. Woo! That's an irresistible proposition. Let's get him. That's it. Now we play out the optics. The people see the optics. We don't even need to investigate. I knew it. And then what do you do? Because you're in jail and you don't have access to anything. He's not only a trafficker of women, so put rape on that as well. Yeah, he's a trafficker and there could be a rape. Well, it could be. Oh, okay. So now you're at the game, right? So now you're no longer the dangerous man that Jordan Peterson is talking about. Now your hair's growing out. Now your fade's growing out. Now you're in the boo. with your brother, your closest, got no access to anything. Now we ain't listening anymore, right? Not your tribe, your true fans, but the masses that you had access to create more dangerous men, critically thinking men. That's the game. Look, if you go to the World Economic Forum, where all the billionaires cavort and conspire, so you have on the left and the right, Labour, Conservative, Democrat, Republican. They're just arms. The consciousness, Klaus Schwab. Now, this is how you create a totalitarian state for your people. Central banking, digital currency. Currency can lock off. That means they can't buy food, they can't receive money, they can't spend money, they can't do anything. They're going to fall in line.
100%.
You can do that with the population. Oh, I'm adopting it. So Keir Starmer's telling you everything he's going to do. He can do exactly what Conservatives are going to do. And he's already said out loud too many times that he's of the mind that government is a vehicle of the past and the World Economic Forum have the right idea. So if we're not looking and actually understanding by listening, because one thing you got to understand about sovereignty is there's a term called clean hands. So in law, when you give a deposition, you must give your statements and all your evidence, disclosure. They are making all their disclosure, but who's really got time to sit down and listen to all those videos and all those meetings? It's all in the public domain. Are you watching it? I watch it. They tell you everything they're going to do. They don't feel any way. They have the consultant corporations come down and they tell you exactly what they're going to do. And then if you will go and repeat that without sharing the evidence, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Now, we're so desensitized to this stuff. We'll watch the video. Oh, okay. And then when it goes down, you'd be surprised why one man's intention could press pause on planet Earth for 2 years. If I told you that in 2018, a man could press pause on planet Earth, would you ever believe that was credible? It sounds fantastical, like a sci-fi movie. But I remember sitting in my yard thinking a man and a woman aren't supposed to be in the yard for so long together. You understand?
100%.
There's worse to come. Much, much worse.
So do you think history repeats itself a lot?
History is only patterns because nature is only patterns. If an oak grows, drops the oak seed, and then that grows into a sapling and germinates back into a tree, it's because it was already an oak that's in the DNA before it fell. So I was always going to be 6'2" and look like I look and have my structure. When I was born, it was told because it was in my DNA. Nature is only repetition. So if you want to know the nature of people, understand that your feelings about it's going to get better don't add up to a hill of beans. It's only going to be more of what it was because it's the nature of their DNA and repetition. It's going to be more. Okay.
Just another question before we close. I wanted to go into dress and how we dress. Do you think that the way you dress is important for us as people?
I'm going to be honest. I like suits. You get black man, if you wear a suit, it'll change your life, and when they won't be criminalized. I'm going to say this. That's what I thought at 20 years old. But you see, at this stage of my life, I understand it's when your spirit evolves and you become innately aware of who you are, the resonance of your spirit in the world, and your capacity to influence. However, if part of your journey is changing how you dress to get you to that space, cool, it's a tool. But in hindsight, it is a superficial component. Now, saying that, people are also visually convinced by certain things. So if we went to the science of the colonial virus, when you put a man on the TV in a white coat and say he's a doctor, well, now I'm listening to the science, because just saying science is now science, because he's got a white coat and he's a doctor, right? No matter if 50 doctors, he's saying the polar extreme of what he's saying. So we know there are visual things that can sway people, and a suit is one of them. It's one of those armors when you come into space. He's not going to mug me, is he? Even if white women still clutch their bags as they walk past you and you're wearing a 400-pound suit, no matter. But they know. They're just doing that because that's in their DNA, and that now got change.
Because I was having this conversation with someone of recent, and I was in a suit and I was getting into spaces and people was talking to me that I would have never dreamed of speaking to me. They were literally speaking to me, and I was like, I know on a normal day, if you see me in a tracksuit and a hoodie,
But you also felt different about you, and that's my point.
yeah.
So if it's a tool that gets you there,
yeah, because that made
use
me,
it.
Yeah, that made me feel more confident in myself to know that I can step in your arena and I can talk better than all of you, and I can get exactly what you lot have. And
I'm glad you know.
I could get anything you lot have and more. Because
I'm glad you know.
They're in suits, but they're actually dummies. You open their brain up. They're not.
The suit is perpetrating a fraud for someone who's not even there.
Yes, they do not. They only made it look good, but they don't have a.
It's
You
a
start
dunny.
talking to these guys, you're like, brother, I swear I could employ someone.
There's
from the
nobody
ends.
there.
I could employ someone in the ends that could talk better than what you just said to me, bro. Like, what are you even talking about? But they look.
They
the part.
look.
They look the part, and because we would never attribute
Question it.
Yeah,
You
because
won't question it because there's a certain authority that comes with it.
yes, and I
Perceived.
think that comes down to something called the inferior complex.
Absolutely.
So the
100%.
inferior complex is that we see some of these people in certain positions and we think, I could never get there, or how would I get there? When these people was able to get there, how could you not get there? You probably get higher, bro. If you use just 4% of your brain as much as he did, you probably get there. Just learn what he knows in little things.
And you may not even know that he's only there via societies and certain cliques that put him in the room because he can facilitate things leaving that room, not based on his acumen and his intellect.
Thank you. But we, as people, I believe a lot of us have,
Inferiority complex.
yes, to the point
But
where
we've been trained to have that. Because if you go to school, and I tell you, your whole of your schooling career, you're an ethnic minority, not by calling you it, I just got to say it in assembly. Ethnic minorities, and you hear it enough times, that's now malware that's in your operating system that makes you work and act in a different way. You understand?
facts. And that's why I said, I went back into history again, and I was just watching a movie called Temptations, yeah? And don't ask me where I got this film from. My brother busted me one tune. I was like, bro, who
Yeah.
He's like, there's a movie called Temptations, watch it.
Yeah.
So I went back to Temptations and everybody was in suits.
Yeah.
And I said, this was the era that black people evolved the most in everything. The way
60s.
we spoke, the way we moved, our attitudes.
Economically,
everything. And I was thinking,
the movements.
was it the suits that gave us the confidence to start to believe that we could do anything? Or was it, like, I started to look at everything as a holistic, not just, the music was pure, meaning that man wasn't talking about killing them. I was like, I love you so much, girl, I want to be, like, it's always about love, like, I'm begging for your love. And I was thinking, bro, like, these guys actually love their women, and their women love them, even though they went through stuff with each other. And
As
on top of that, the way they dressed, they was able to get into audiences of white people and be accepted visually. Do you understand what I mean? Visually be accepted. So I started to understand that everything is not what it looks like.
100%.
And that's when I started to understand that we need to start, if I'm honest, we need to start training ourselves to dress how we want to be addressed if we want to be in circles of being addressed. So I'll give you an example. Like, I was working in Liverpool Street, and all these bankers, all these weirdo guys, and I thought these guys, like, they was like, work for this bank, work for that bank.
Yep.
And as I started to speak to them, I started to realize that a lot of them, they didn't have a clue what they was talking about. But the problem was that if you don't have knowledge of something, you're going to think that people know more than you. That's the inferior complex kicking in again. So I thought, these guys know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, blah, blah. If I'm being honest with you, bro, a lot of them didn't have a clue what they was talking about, but they made it look like they knew what they was talking about.
Absolutely.
So I understood two things on that day. I said, if we as people can dress a certain way, we can get in certain rooms. If we acquired a certain knowledge, just 2% of what they have, we're way more articulate and we're way more powerful. But why do we want to get into their rooms? Why don't we create our own?
I'm glad you came full circle. So now, as a reverse engineer, I said something to you about an hour ago. Revolut is not a bank. Therefore, no banking license. Yes, you have to be a member of the regulatory body working in finances. However, all it requires is the capitalization, which means you've got to raise the money. So the first thing you do is you bring in all of the professionals from that industry. You create your own vehicle, and then you capitalize it by bringing in your people. You understand? That's all they ever did. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's no more complicated than that. So once you understand what needs to be done, identify the people that have the skills you don't. If you are the person who sees the vision, that means you're the fisherman who has to go out and recognize other fishermen. And that means you've got to advance yourself enough how to address, forget them, to address us in a room to convince us that this proposition is more profitable than their proposition. You understand? That's it. And it sounds simple. It's the process that's complex, but it's not actually in doing it. That's not complex. It's the process, because you're going to jump through all the catch-22s and hurdles that they design, so you don't do it, because they don't make it attractive.
No way.
But it can be done because it's been
done before.
So if you see somebody can create a Monzo, you can do it. If you see somebody created a Starling, you can do it. If you see somebody created a Revolut, you can do it. These are all digital banking entities that have been created in the last 10 years. Okay.
And they've taken over the game of...
They've taken over the game of the unbanked. Do you know how many people are unbanked? Do you know how many people that look like us are unbanked? Even if you just went for the unbanked who are worth money to get their revenue, they don't even have any options of anywhere else to go.
I know about 10 people right now.
King, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. So sometimes you just got to approach things in a different way, like you're in a cell making a cup out of tin foil, right? So now you got your hooch cup and there's no leaks. Right, it. Man's drinking out of foil because he never had no cups. Mad thing. Remember last summer, man, we're doing that. It's just real because you have a different lens. So you applying a different science now to your engineering. That's your cultural component. That's what gives you the advantage over them. They can't restrict you. But based on the inferiority complex that they planted through the malware that we got when we were indoctrinated between 5 and 17, it may be an insurmountable thing to overcome for many. But I did mention one component that's unquantifiable, because I asked you one question. You asked me a lot of questions. I asked you one question. What was it about you that was able to overcome those hurdles? And you said you didn't know. And I know what it is, and I told you. It's your spirit. Now, if you recognize that component from the beginning, you would hear the defiant voice in your head and acknowledge it your whole life, thereby having a different outcome by the time you're 17, you understand? Because you got clarity about your people telling you, nah, bump that, that's waffle. Yeah, of course they want you to capitulate. Who doesn't? If I want a woman to sleep with me, of course I'm going to tell her any nonsense. Now, this is a big girl time now, this ain't about that. And she's saying, no, rude boy, I know you're going to run through me, and then you're going to run through someone else. That's big girl talk. People are always talking, but do you have the capacity to hear them based on your humility and awareness of them?
Respect that still.
They respect us. They want us to win. And winning don't have to be pretty.
So what do you think of solutions around getting our minds to think differently? Because you know what? I believe that once we can home in on the younger generation, and I say younger generation because I feel like it starts from younger.
Starts from youth, because like any point of evolution. So let me ask you a question. Do you think there was any tree that 1,000 years ago needed a man to put a wire tubing around it so that it didn't blow down? No, right? So now, when you go to a park and they plant new trees, what do? They put the wire circular thing around it, right?
Yeah.
Are we doing that with our youths? Even though we know that now we're in an era where they can get knocked down. No, we're not, are we?
Never.
So it's called the public health approach, in where you create a wraparound care for a child. And I wrote a program called the Schools to Industry Pipeline. Go to the adpac.net website and plagiarize it and employ it yourself. Just take what's been done. I don't care. I already created something which hasn't come to fruition. Nobody's going to fund me. Nobody's going to fund an entity that's going to compete economically with them. That's going to enable your people to compete with them. You understand? You're an organisation, you get money, just teeth it, plagiarise it. You understand? Create wraparound care for that child. Like that tree that is planted today in a park, because people are prone to kicking them, trying to climb them or do whatever, but it's not strong enough, is it? That's our children. So we send this child, like that tree that's not strong enough, to this English woman who's breaking down the child. You're bad. Ethnic minorities, black boys do this, a particular behavior. So now they have the expectation that she has for them, not knowing the value of themselves. But are we creating the wraparound care, the fencing around that tree to protect them? No, we're not. So I already said, rites of passage. Don't look to me to give money. Give money to Manhood Academy. Give money to MAG. Just Google them. Manhood Academy. Google them. MAG. Google them. Westside Leaders Academy. Google them. Southside Leaders Academy. Google them. Origin HQ. Google them. One of my brothers has a chess club. You put in Black Chess Club, you're going to find it because he gives them more than that. He gives them the discipline, the critical thinking. Google them, drop £2, drop £5, drop £10. But support them where you can, because that spiritual tithe is going to come back to you. Because some you that may have been on a pathway to stab your child might be taken into a different pathway, because it's not everything we see, you know. Sometimes you bend the universe to create things, and because it's not seen, you don't know that it happens. So now imagine this youth is on a pathway where he's becoming a machine, and he goes into a place where through his exposure, his mind is just expanded to a place that he never had. But he was a dormant killer, and he was on his way in his trajectory to get in a body. And now that's the least that he's considering. He's on a completely different pathway because we created the pathway to put the fencing around the tree, because he's not strong enough by himself. You understand? So that's where we start. We start from where we are with what we have today. Forget about your fantasy. I want to do this. I want to do that. Look at what we have today. Start from where we are with what we have today. That's it. Start from there. And then whatever we want to do from that, fantastic. But I've named like 5 organizations. Go look for them. Drop some P on them over the weekend. They've all got a donation box, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's love. Yeah, man, plug everyone with your socials, man, so they can find you, man, and what you do.
Dean, DEANOKAISNR for senior on everything. AdPack UK on everything.
Yeah, make sure you lot go follow that. Out.